Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to go through the process that I'm doing to these doors. As you see, I've been busy. Those turned out awesome. I saved the worst to last. So yeah, sit back and let's get at her. So, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a great week. Down to the doors, literally. Trying to get these prepped up here. Last week, I ended up doing the disassembly, all the main grinding and wire wheeling, cleaning these all out. And they don't look that bad. Yes, there's some good pitting in here. We're going to treat this steel before we put the primer on it. Even though the primer does treat it, we are treating this as we go before the doors are finished. I've got them all scraped down and vacuumed out on the inside. What's left is the surface rust. There's not much you can do with this. I'm not blasting this car. That's not the kind of project this is. But anything flaky is gone, and we will be spraying the inside of these doors. Not this video. I still got to pick that up. But I will be coating all the inside of the doors and spraying in an acoustic material that helps, deaden that sound. But this door here, I've left to the end, because it's the one that is the worst. The body side we're going to see, that is the huge rust point that I got to get into. Now, there is no pinholes. Nothing has gone through. It is just severely rusted. They did some body work on there, and they just did not do a good job, and the water got in behind it. And there's a spot right there as well, too, that it's got pretty pitted up. And that's going to be treated as well. But as for the interiors of the doors, they worked out awesome. Now these are only down to 120 grit. I sand these on, and it chews it up pretty quick. There's a lot of corners, and trying to sand around these edges with the DA really rips it up. So that 120 ends up smoothing out pretty good. All these dimples are the original spot welds, but all this is covered up anyway. All that's left is like an eighth, maybe even a quarter inch here that you see that'll be top coated, and even the whole inside of the window, frame, the door frame itself, gets a cover that goes on there that'll be done up nice. And it's actually going to be my interior color, which will be black, a high gloss black. I think they call it a fleet black that I'm using. But these turned out awesome. They're smooth. Everything is great. Now, smooth is my coat. my surface prep is smooth. These are not smooth. These are so warped and wavy, and it's nothing that's happened to the car itself. I honestly believe it's just the way that they are punched out of the factory. The outsides are nice. The finished side that you see, the skins are good. But inside here, just a horrible job of assembly and the way they pump these out. But yeah, little bug there. Mosquito, he took his last breath into that paint. But let's get at that other door and get it finished up. There we are. That would be step 2. Step 1 being the wire wheel. Step 2, the hand grinder or hand sander. So we got everything down where we want it to be. There's nothing flaky on here. Actually, there was no real rust. A little bit of surface rust here, but no real rust inside these doors at all underneath the skins. But now, if I wipe away the dust, you can still see shiny paint here as well too, and in these edges, so on all these little corners. I just can't get the sander in there. I tried on the other doors, it just tears it up really bad. So I got to get those done. Have to get in spots like this. You can see where the shiny is there as well too. Then also up inside this edge. And that's all done by hand. So grab a piece of paper, rip it up, and we'll get on that. Now we got all the sanding done. Do some brake clean. This is just my sanding rag. So it's just a little bit of dust. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this quickly. There'll be some dust that I take off. I'm not really worried about that. Just want to make sure there's no oil or grease on here. Just so that when I put my primer on, and also my metal treatment, she's going to stick good and won't have any issues in the future. There, just barely had enough to finish that off. I am out of brake clean. Now, as I'm mentioning that this is the worst door, look at this edge. You can see how rippled and bent it is. I'm not really sure what happened to get it that way, but there's definitely some body work going to be happening on the good side. But before I get to that point, I want to try to get this as straight as I can, or not straight, nice curve, but straight as I can before I start the body fill. So I'm going to get a metal dolly. I'm going to put underneath here, get a hammer, and I'm just going to work that a little bit just to try to smooth out those little bumps, just make it a little more gradual. There we go. Now you can see I got a nice gentle curve there. Just still on the bottom side, of course you can feel the little dings on it, but that's going to be what my body fill is for. I really need to get a proper dolly. This is a 12-inch chunk, a 3-inch by 1.5 solid steel. It takes more work to hold that up there with one hand and hit on it than it does to actually do all the body work. But it's just what I have laying around. Used to be from a press that I had. But yeah, that worked out good. Now that's done. We'll dust this off because it did knock out a little bit of dirt there on the corners. We'll start getting ready to prep the steel. All right, we are all cleaned off again. So, on to the rust converter. The Rust Check brand, this is just the one I've always used. I've used this for years. And this works excellent. Big pitted rust that you have here like this here, where you clean it off and all the scale is gone, but you still see the actual rust color. That's what you want. You don't want shiny metal. If you grind on this old rust till it goes to shine, then there's no need for this. You're done. But door skins and door panels aren't that thick, and a lot of this body work you don't be grinding too deep. So this is what I use. So it's Rust Check Rust Converter. I've used it before on this car. I don't think I've ever gone into depth about it, but it smells like butt crack. It smells like swass. So you want to give it a good shake. And all we're going to do is use a rag, and we're just going to rub it in to the spots that are rusty, making sure that it's a nice wet coat. Then we're going to let that dry. And that's the treatment and all the spots I'm going to worry about right now. So it went on good. You could, hopefully you could see it in the video. But this side, it turned black almost instantly. It really got in there, which is good. It's mainly because it's warmer in the shop now than it is in the winter. But all that, you see where it's still shiny, that was the good metal. But that black is all the rust that's converting. So, I'm going to give this a couple hours to dry and do its thing. I'm going to head outside and do a couple other little odds and ends around the acreage. And for me, probably about 2, maybe 3 hours of what else I got to do while this is drying. For you, it's only going to be a couple seconds. Catch you back in a minute. And there we go. Been actually almost 4 hours. I got a little carried away outside, got sidetracked, a little squirrel action going on. But everything is dried up good. Everything is feeling great. So now it's time to throw the primer on. Now, I'm only using spray bombs on the inside of this. And I'm doing that with most of the car because this is only just the preliminary spray. I'm only doing this just as I sand to cover up the bare metal as I go. The whole car will be completely redone and sanded when I'm finished. And reprimed using an actual spray gun. Picked this up here a couple weeks ago actually. At old Princess Auto. They had a sale going on. And they had a bunch of different models, different versions. This is the 1.8 millimeter gun, so it should work well with everything. And it came with the regulator. Now I still got to I want to put one filter and water separator right at the gun. I do have one over there on my compressor, but I would rather have one here as well too, just to, last chance. So I got the little bit bigger gun, bigger hopper with regulator, and that's what we'll be using to do the final spray on this whole car when everything's done. It'll be a nice epoxy primer and something good, something that's really going to bite onto this surface. But I'm going to throw some primer down, get you back in a few. And there's the finished product all sprayed in. That went on awesome. And like I said, it's only 120 grit, but man, does it go on smooth. That primer, it's a rust stop converter, actually, rust converter. It's also an etch primer, and it fills really well. And then again, of course, all this is behind the panel anyway. It'll just be the sides that are finished, smoothed off. When it's time to prime, I'll go over this whole thing with 300, which would be the doors, anything that's exposed, and also the car. And once that primer's done and set in and hardened up, 1,000 grit. Sand the car one more time in 1,000, and then it'll be the top coat. But the top coat's a ways away. I'm going to drive this car in primer for a while, and just to make sure everything's good, if I got to take doors off to adjust, if I got to pull the engine back out, I'm not dragging it over a nice finished surface or anything like that. If I get a ding, it's not so bad. I can go back on it. But that's all I got for you today. The rest is going to be waiting. I'm going to start working on the backside of these doors. I need some paper for my airfoil. I ordered paper through Amazon. Well, that was 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. It didn't show up. So I got some coming in. It'll be on Monday, actually. It'll be tomorrow. That'll be getting some new paper in. So I'm going to start running that because that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to go back over my rear quarters. Got to finish the rear quarter on the other side using that large airfoil just to cover that nice, smooth, big area down the front fenders. And if that works good, I might even go over top of that hood one more time. And then I also have the complete roof and the trunk lid to do. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Love you all. We'll catch you again next week.